Hello, team players. Got another teamwork build for you today, and this time we're building a psychic. More specifically, a tangible dream psychic. So the first thing that the tangible dream gives you is the ability to cast shield on anyone. And if you amp it, it has 3 layers, so it doesn't end when you shield block. We also get the amp for Figment, which allows our Figment to provide flanking for our allies. For our subconscious mind, we're going with emotional acceptance. This will give us charisma as our main stat, and we can give an ally a bonus on saving throws or heal them, both of which are very good. For today's Ancestry, we're going with the Wei Yang, which of course will give us a lot of darkness-based abilities. And we're going with the Shadow of the Wanderer heritage for that extra speed. Always helpful. For our Ancestry feat at level 1, we're going to take Refined Motion in Darkness, which allows us to have easier stealth checks if we're in dim light or darkness, which believe me, we are going to be like 90% of the time in this build. For our attributes, of course, Charisma is going to be our most important. After all, that's what all of our spells are going to go off of. Then we need High Dexterity for defense and for those stealth checks. And finally, Constitution and Wisdom are going to be important as well, but not as important as those first two. Moving on to skills. We're going to need Performance for sure in this build. A lot of our Ancestry feats are going to require performance checks, so we need to be trained in performance. We also need Intimidation and Stealth for this build. Level 2 is when we'll pick up our Shadowcaster dedication. This will give us the Cloak of Shadow focus spell, which will make stealthing even easier for us. At level 3, we're going to be taking Canny Acumen for our low fortitude saves, because otherwise we're not going to get higher fortitude saves for a good long while. At level 4, we'll take Shadow spells. This will let us pick up things like Shadow Blast, Shadow Army, and Shadow Walk as spells, even if they're not on the occult list. Granted, a lot of shadow spells are on the occult list, but some of them aren't, so this will let us pick up the ones that aren't. At level 5, we'll take Disillusion Clarity. So, as a free action, we can get a focus point back if we're in darkness. As a psychic, we're going to be using focus points a lot. So, getting one back if we're in darkness is very, very good for a psychic. This is only once per day, and it is only one focus point up to our maximum. But having an extra focus point is always good. This way we essentially have 4 focus points once before we have to refocus. At level 6, we'll be taking Disciple of Shade, which will give us the Inscrutable Mask focus spell, which gives us a bonus on checks to lie, demoralize, or hide, which is fantastic. Especially since this build is charisma based. So we're already going to be really good at that lying and demoralizing. But this will just make us even better. And we get a bonus on checks to hide, which stealth is also going to be pretty high in this build. At level 7, we'll be taking toughness. You should know by now, more hit points. Always good. At level 8, we'll be taking Dark Persona's Presence. We can frighten enemies near us, but while this is active, we can only cast spells that harm enemies. This is kind of our last resort thing if we need to do like a bunch of damage. Because, frightening enemies is good, but most of the time in this build we're going to want to be using darkness-based spells. So, this isn't a great thing to use, but there's nothing better here. For our level 9 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Disillusioned Sight, so we can gain greater dark vision for 1 minute. This is going to go extremely well with a feat we're going to take much later on, but I'll get to that later in this video. At level 10, we'll be taking Shadow Reservoir. This gives us extra spells that don't require spell slots, but they have to require a spell attack roll or saving throw, which means things like Darkness Spell or Shadow Walk don't apply here. But Phantom Pain most definitely does, and that's one of the best spells in this game. Period. If you guys made it this far in the video, you probably like Mike's builds. So, if you guys could please subscribe, it helps a lot. And all it takes from you is a few seconds of your time. And you're already watching the video, so you might as well, right? Level 11 is Die Hard. Come on, of course we're taking this. Dying 5 rather than dying 4. Come on. That's always good. At level 12 is Signature Spell Expansion. This gives us more signature spells, which if you're new to the game and you don't know, signature spells allow you to heighten spells more easily. So you can heighten something like Phantom Pain up to any rank you want, which is pretty awesome. At level 13, it's Dance of the Jester. So we can make a performance check to make an enemy do the same thing as us, whether that's moving, knocking them prone, or dropping their weapon. This makes this feat very good against bosses, because you can just make them drop prone, which we don't have to worry about that, because as long as we're not like right next to an enemy, us being prone actually helps us, because we can take cover while prone against ranged attacks. Or we can have them drop their weapon, which we don't really even need a weapon in this build. Our mind is our weapon. Or we can move them into a flanking position for our allies. This is a very good feat that you need to take for this build. At level 14, we'll take Unending Emptiness. This gives us a Dark Light spell, which is fantastic with Disillusioned Sight. As with Disillusioned Sight, you can see through the darkness because you have greater dark vision, and when you cast a spell, you can make your allies able to see through it as well, which basically means the entire party can see through it, but your enemies cannot, normally. Most enemies will not be able to see through it. And while we can't be in the darkness, because we'll take damage, just like the enemies will, we can make our allies immune to the damage. And besides, we don't want to be in the darkness anyway, because we're not a melee build. But we still need to be able to see through the darkness so we can use our mind-based spells on enemies in there. Those two together are extremely helpful. Of course, at level 15, we get a general feat, and we're going to take fleets. Obviously, the more speed we have, the better. We need to be as far away from enemies as possible, and this combined with our heritage is going to help a lot with that. At level 16, we'll take Shatter Space. So we can damage enemies near us or another creature, and possibly knock them prone, which of course is extremely helpful for other builds in this party, especially melee fighters. Like the commander build that I did last time, and the next build in this party. And finally, for level 17, we're going to take Dance of the Tiger. So we can frighten enemies by stepping on their shadow. We do have to be relatively close to the enemy to do this. But if we're already in melee with an enemy, we can step on their shadow, then move away. Because we can be up to 60 feet away from the enemy and still keep them frightened with this feat. For spells, we're obviously going to want Shield and Figment, because those are our main amp spells. We're also going to need debuff spells and darkness-based spells. Alright, for free archetype, there's a few here. First, if you got free archetype, you're going to want to take your Shadowcaster feats on that side of free archetype, and you can take other psychic feats on your main class side. Witch and Wizard are also pretty effective here if you want more spells. You can also go with the Alter Ego archetype since we are charisma based. And finally, the Mindsmith. We're a psychic. Mindsmith is literally designed for us. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a comment either here or on my Discord server. Tear my build apart. Let me know where I messed up. And of course, I do have a Starfinder channel, so you'll definitely want to check that out. And of course, if you want a path builder for this build, you can absolutely check out my Patreon page. Links to all those are in the description. And if you want a commander build, you can check out the video on screen. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.